George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie, Wolves, is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie, Wolves,
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it, so do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
What the f*** do you mean what am I talking about?
Out here talking
You! You! Minor league mother is what you are.
Tell you guys something right fucking now. It's not easy to be a fucking champion, all right? It's the hardest fucking thing there is to do. Are you guys that fucking good? You're not. I'll tell you that right the fuck now. Wise up. Buddy, go ahead and say what the fuck you want to say.
And we have a lot to say for you today. Welcome to 86, the Wally Backman Show. There is our guy right there. I'm Bruce Jacobs, and it's great to have you aboard this week. Coming up, Roger McDowell, Mr. Entertainment, Mr. Keep the Locker Room Loose. He'll be joining us in just a few minutes. And Wally, I'm sure you and Roger got a lot of great stuff to talk about, so we look forward to that for sure. How are you today, brother?
I'm doing great. I can't look. I'm looking forward to talking to Roger. Great teammate, great guy. I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah, you know, the time I covered him, he was very gracious. Like you, he has a blemish though. You played for the Phillies, and he pitched pitching coach for the Braves. So I'll forgive both of you, and we'll all be friends again.
Hey, we won a world championship together. That's all that matters.
That is all right. Case closed.
Roger McDowell, School of Practical Jokes. Fans, it gets mighty boring out here in the bullpen sometimes, so I have to look for ways to liven things up a bit. So now I decided to let you.
All right, we are pleased to be joined today by one of the great Met characters of all time, and of course, one of the great contributors to the 86 World Series, later became a pitching coach, obviously friend of Wally Backman. He is Roger McDowell. Roger, great to have you on today. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks. After I get everything figured out, it's nice to be on. Thanks. It's good to see Wally again.
Yeah, no, hey, Raj, it's the years that we've gone through. I got so many questions.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Huh?
So it's been a while,
more, Raj, but you know what? I'm going to say my first question is, what was it like coming through baseball before you got to the 86 Mets? I mean, going through the system, was it a good system? What did you think?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, I didn't know any other system, obviously. You and I both drafted. Well, you weren't drafted. Were you drafted by the Mets?
I was. First rounder, brother. First rounder.
I'm sorry, I don't know that. But that's the thing is that you were senior to me. So, I don't know, after getting drafted and going to Shelby, North Carolina, where my first stop was, Joe McIlvain and Steve Shriver picked me up from the airport, and we headed to the ballpark at Shelby. And, getting to play professional baseball is always my dream. But now that you look back and you see some of the names we got to play with, especially like I said, you're a couple years older than me, so you went through the system earlier than I did. But the names that were at that first stop were pretty impressive. Rich Miller was the manager. We didn't have a pitching coach. We had a roving pitching instructor, Greg Pavlik, and that was probably every 2 weeks he would come through. And he would help us work on our craft. But, being in a small town like Shelby, North Carolina, first foray into professional baseball. Sorry, and getting to be in an atmosphere of playing every day for a meaning, and the guys that I came up with through the system, and some went away. We saw one of the guys that I pitched with instructionally, Calvin Schiraldi, was ended up being, the guy that was on the mound for the Boston Red Sox, and I believe he was in the Bobby Ojeda trade, and so it comes a little bit full circle of seeing guys, knowing guys, but also cherishing the times that you got to spend with your teammates and especially the Mets.
I got so many questions for you, Rod. I mean, we're friends. We've been together for so many years over the course of time. I know that we have I think you're going there, the 12th and 13th, right? To the signing in New Jersey or whatever. You going there?
No, unfortunately, I won't be able to be there, Wally. I'll be out in Arizona. There's Major League Baseball has a showcase for international players, and I've gone out there the last couple of years, and unfortunately, it falls on that time period when I will be in Arizona. So I'm not going to get to see you guys this time, but look forward to the next time.
No, I know we always have a good time when we do that stuff, but Raj, what do you think about? I want to go to your coaching career here shortly, but what do you think about some of the things with the game-changing things, and you got the ghost runner on second base? I can go on and on and on. I could go about you and Jesse moving from right field. I don't know if it's 85 or 86 when we had Rusty Sod.
Yeah, that was 86 in Cincinnati.
It was 86. Tell me about that, because we were good, but Davey had some different things about him that when he did that, it was like we're all looking as players playing on the field going, what the fuck?
Well, that wasn't so much my sentiment. It was like I get to play the outfield, which I always do it. And you knew that Jesse and I, during batting practice, we shagged all 3 rounds. That was how we got our running and our conditioning in, and it was fun. We made it fun. And obviously when the outfielder was in, if it was Darryl and right and Mookie or Lenny in center, and whether it's George Foster or Lee Mazzilli in left, when they needed to get their work in, we had to go cover the other 2 fields. And so, when that happened, you remember we were down, Franco is pitching, we're down to our last out, we're going to lose the game in Cincinnati, and we're all ready to go out, right? And so it was Franco, pitching to Keith Hernandez, and Keith lost a fly ball to right field, and Dave Parker was always known for trying to snatch, make it look, an incredibly difficult catch by snatching or just adding his flair to it. And when he snatched, the ball didn't stay in his glove, and we ended up tying the game, going in extra innings, and that was when Ray and Eric Davis got in a fight at third base. And I think 5 of our guys were thrown out, 5 of theirs guys were thrown out. And you know how Davey was. He was always a thinker, and having the likes of Buddy Harrelson and Mel Stoudemire and Bill Robbins on the bench, a lot of times they thought out of the box. And so I think it was just because we didn't have any alternative. We were out of players. I think we had an extra catcher. They had a couple guys left in the bullpen, but it was more out of necessity that Jesse and I played the outfield, and depending on if it was a right-handed or a left-hander hitting, Davey brought us in. I think Pete Rose protested the game, which later became a moot point. And so we got to play the outfield. Switched, in the one game I played right field, left field, and pitched and I think Jesse played right field and pitched. But Jesse got a fly ball from Tony Perez. I was pitching, and Tony Perez hit a line drive to Jesse in right field, and he caught it. And then when I was playing left field, I think it was Max Venable when Jesse was pitching, and he lofted a fly ball. It was more to left field than it was to center field, and I was camped under it, ready to catch it. And all of a sudden, this shadow comes to my left and crosses me, steps on my foot, catches the ball, and it was Lenny. And I said, "What are you doing?" And rightfully so. The center fielder, anything he can catch, you're supposed to get out of the way of. I didn't want to get out of the way of. I wanted to catch the ball. And I can hear it to this day. Lenny would turn around and said, "Just wanted to be sure, dude." And so Howard Johnson ends up hitting a big homer, I think off Ted Power in like the 13th inning, and we ended up winning the game. But it was it was imagination from the manager's standpoint, and also out of necessity. But it was fun. I mean, everything we did that year, it seemed to turn to gold whenever we had an opportunity to take advantage of a miscue by the other team.
Hey, we had fun. I know that, brother. Another question, really quick. I want to give my co-host Bruce a chance to ask you a question or two before I finish. But how about this Ohtani guy? Is he the best player ever in baseball, Raj?
Yeah, I don't know, Wally.
48.
I don't know. I mean, he can pitch. He's pitching, he's hitting, he steals bases. He's quite an asset. I believe he's not able to pitch now because he had Tommy John surgery. But
right,
what he does with the bat, what he does on the field, what he does on the bases, you would have to say, arguably, he's all around, the best player that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, you know what's funny, Raj, is I think that, and you were a reliever. You closed, you set up. You and Jesse were unique, but for what you guys did, everything that you guys did, it was so unique that people don't understand the importance of really what you did. But I mean, I do as a player and a former teammate, but. The things that you guys did during certain times was so unique. It won us a championship. Trust me, I try to tell everybody that winning a championship comes from 25 guys. And it could be two guys together. It's parts of everybody. And what
Correct.
you guys did, when I look at the record, it's 22.
Well, you know what? It's pretty much, it's a sum of all pieces. I mean, it's like you said, it was 25 guys, and we had for a team that had so many egos on the team, we were not amongst ourselves. We weren't egotistical, and I don't want to include myself in that because. But we do. I mean, we had egos because we knew we were going to win. And if you think about it, Wally, here's the thing: is that and try to remember a team that had platoons in the bullpen as closers, Jesse and myself, had a platoon at third base with Howard Johnson and Ray Knight, had a platoon at second base with you and Tuff, had a platoon in center field with Lenny and Mookie. That's what, 4 or 5 positions where you have platoons, and everybody was happy because everybody contributed and everybody got their playing time, and it was all about winning a baseball game, and that's what it was. It was about all of us pulling together. In the old Tommy Lasorda, pulling on the old, pulling at the same end of the rope. We did, and we knew that our bullpen. We figured that was our strength, and if we got into another team's bullpen, that the advantage Mets, because you saw a little bit or a lot of it in the playoffs with Houston when we got into their bullpen and we were able to get out of Mike Scott and out of Bob Nepper. So it was quite a year and quite a team, and I think that's why the city of New York gravitated so well to that team is because, uh, for the most part, we're a bunch of blue collar guys that took our lunchbox to work and went out and not only competed on the field but performed on the field.
No, I agree with you, Raj. I just think that the things that we did as players there, uh, it was amazing. You know, the platoon system, all that kind of stuff that you're talking about.
Yep.
You know, created a little bit of competition amongst the players. I
Sure.
would have loved to see you say 50 games that year, but the way that Davey did that stuff, it was pretty impressive because it won us a championship. I mean, I wear my ring every day, so
Yeah.
to me it was. You know, there's a lot of credit goes all the way around the books. You know, from the players to the coaches to the manager to the front office to Frank Cash and the way he put the team uh, together. But you know, I'm gonna pause for a minute, Raj, because
Sure.
Bruce is my buddy. He's my co-host, and I want him to ask you a question or two or whatever you want. I have more questions for you, and
Okay.
I'll be able to throw you under the bus and get you out of here in a while.
Sounds good.
Hey,
Bruce?
Rod, I have just a couple of quickies, but a follow up on Otani.
Yeah.
Probably too soon to say whether he's the best, but if he goes 50-50, or let's say 40-40, and contends for a Cy Young as a pitcher, because next year he's supposed to get back on the mound. I mean, that's just so far and above what anybody else has ever done. I'm just not sure at that point we couldn't make that claim that he
Yeah.
is the greatest baseball player. Do you think that would put him over the edge?
Well, no, I mean, I don't ever, I don't think that he's the greatest that played the game. I think he's the best player in the game today. Um,
Like it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure next year when he's able to pitch. Okay. I'm not sure the analytics are going to allow him to do the things on the base paths that he's steal 50 bases. I'm not sure that that's going to happen because you see it all the time. You know, guys get shut down because they hit a couple doubles and a triple. Next day, you don't want to get your legs tired. Those things that come into play today that and I'll tell you this without going off on too much of a tangent. Darryl Strawberry should have been the first 50-50 player.
I
Absolutely had the
agree.
ability.
I
Absolutely
agree.
had the ability and absolutely had the knowledge to be that guy. And I've said that for a long time that, if Darryl had um, he had the opportunity, if Darryl had the big 1-2 um, in his prime, he could have been easily 50-50.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, People talk about records that'll never be broken. DiMaggio, I'll give you one. I don't think any relief pitcher who only started 2 games in his entire career will ever have 140 decisions like you did. 70 up, 70 down. I don't think anybody in today's baseball, that record will never be broken, in my opinion. Thoughts on
Well,
that?
well, you know, obviously the game evolves. Um, I don't know that that will ever happen. I don't know that a reliever will ever throw 100 innings again, like it used to be commonplace back in the day. Throwing 100 innings. I think my first 2 years I threw 127, and that was the year that Frank Cashin told Davey Johnson when he took me out of spring training, "This kid just had arm surgery last year. I need you to be careful with him." So hence, I go 127 innings the first year, and I think the next year I had 126. It might have been vice versa, but that's because that's what the game called for. Throwing multiple innings, um, and also the manager having confidence in his offense that if you give up a run or two, our offense is stout enough to be able to overcome that deficit. And so Yeah, that's a lot of. I didn't realize that. I know my record was 70-70, but I didn't. I guess add them up and say 140 decisions. Yeah, I don't know if that'll be the case anymore, just because of the way the game is nowadays.
Yeah. I want to ask you about becoming a pitching coach. And you don't just become a pitching coach, you replace a legendary pitching coach. Not just any bump in the road pitching coach. Leo Mazzoni
This guy
was a legendary pitching coach. There's Wally doing his Leo
Yeah.
impression. So it's your first shot in the big leagues as a pitching coach, and you're replacing a legend. Can you tell us that experience?
You also forgot to mention that they had just come off winning 14 straight division championships.
Well, I don't want to rub that in on myself and all the other Met fans.
Yeah.
We kind of
No.
try to forget about that part, Raj.
No, I know. I will tell you this. Going into New York, being a Brave, is a little bit different, especially since you were met on the last team to win a World Series championship. But they were very, very gracious. The fans were very gracious, and I was hopefully as gracious back because of what the fans were and what they meant to our ball club. And coming out on a Monday night playing at the time Pittsburgh Pirates, who were not very good, last in our division, and you see 60,000 people in the stands on a Monday night in the middle of a school week, and so that's pretty impressive. But I tell you what, it's pretty cool to have been able to play the game and also to have coached the game. I was in coaching for 13 years in the major leagues as a pitching coach, and to have that opportunity sitting next to Bobby Cox for 5 years was really, really a tremendous part of my life that that I'm very thankful for. So I mean, it was really neat. It was really cool. Unfortunately, the Braves weren't very good at the time, and we didn't win. We didn't win again until 2010, which is Bobby's last year, and then we got knocked out by the Giants in the playoffs. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and so the next chapter goes on.
I'm going to throw it back to Wally. And Wally, one of the things we loved about Roger is his antics and the mischievousness. So you better ask him about that hot foot
yet.
deal.
I got. Okay, I'm gonna go there now. The best prankster. You know what? This is what made us so good. Not that we were just a good team, but I talked to Bruce. I've talked to other people. The best prankster in baseball is Roger McDowell. You know what? My producer Marsh. I want him to go to this subject, and I'm not even going to tell you what it is. No, I don't want to tell you what it is, but I want him to go this. I want you to watch this video, but I want to really know, how the hell did this come about?
Which one? Upside down?
There. He's thinking of what he's going to do to somebody next. The culprit, as always, Roger McDowell.
What's amazing to me is how he does it so many times. Look at that innocent look right there. There it goes.
You're never safe with Roger around. It was.
Yeah. You know what, Wally? That was actually something that Howard Johnson brought over from the Tigers, and I don't know if it was on This Week in Baseball or somewhere I saw it. And I asked Howard about it. He said, "Oh yeah, the Tigers did it all the time." And so I said, "Well, show me." So he showed me, and because I had so much free time as a reliever, and Howard, just like all the guys that were in a platoon, you were pretty much everyday player, because if you didn't start the game, you were probably going to pinch hit somewhere in the last 3 innings. Right. So you always had to be ready. So Howard showed me how they did the hot foot, and how they originally did the hot foot was with bubble gum. And being in New York, and you got the cold weather, then you got the hot weather in the summer. Bubble gum wasn't a very good adhesive, so that the hot foot would stick on a shoe. So, right there next to our bench, if you remember, Wally, was a camera well, and that's where the guys, and they had this, it's called gaffer's tape. And so I was just playing around one day, and I thought, hey, this might work. Instead of gum, this might work. And that's how we were, and with Howard's help, we were able to perfect the hot foot to a degree that not only would the cigarette stay lit long enough to light the matches, but also the adhesive to stay on the shoe. The one that was really good was the one in Cincinnati with Bill Robinson at first base during the game, when Bill Robinson went to first base, and the hot foot went off in the middle of the net. I think it was Gary Carter's at bat, and Pete Rose had seen what was going on for however reason. I guess because he sees everything on the field, but he was the player manager back then, and he took all the Cincinnati Reds down toward, and you remember, Wally, how close the dugouts were to the coaching boxes. And he took all the Reds players down to the first base end of the coaching box, and which was where Bill was. And the hot foot went off. It was a night game. There were lights going on in the stadium, but it was a night game, and it went off like a NASA rocket. And Bill didn't see it until the smoke started coming up from under where he was leaning over on his knees. So, that was probably the best one and most funnest one. And I will tell you this, is that one of the things, as much as we cherish the memories of having Davey as a manager, the thought that he told me, or one of the things that he told me when I was thinking about doing anything, he said, there's a time and a place. Make sure it's the right time and make sure it's the right place. So I tried, if I did anything, it was always not hopefully going to deter from what we were trying to do on the field.
Raj, I think about, I've only got really one more question, but I think about what people told us, or they tried to educate us by those things. They were important things. But, my last question, and I thought I was going to be a manager in the big leagues. Never happened. But, and so I wasn't in this picture, and I know that you didn't have the Maddox, the Glavins, and all those guys, but
right.
You were there for 11 years with the Braves. What was it like being a pitching coach? What could you teach those guys, or I don't know, teach them? They were talented, but what could you say to those guys? I believe in my heart that you had instant respect because of the career that you had, but you still have to earn it. Am I right?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And you do. You get that credit for playing the game, and being able to play the game for 12 years, which I was lucky enough to be able to do. There's that part of the credibility. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like when we were playing. How can you help me? Okay, your career, what it was, whatever it was, it's over. And that was the approach I always took, is that my career was over, and it was my turn to try to be as helpful to the needs of my pitching staff that I could be. And in order to do that, I think there's a lot of accountability that you need to hold, and a standard that you need to hold your pitchers to. I had the good fortune of having Tim Hudson in Atlanta for 8 years. And so I knew, and it's no different than the guys that we had on our team. I knew that those older guys, Tim Hudson, the experienced guys, that they would make sure the younger guys not so much towed the line, but there's a certain way about being a professional baseball player, a certain way about representing yourself, a certain way about representing the game, and also representing your organization. And so and on top of that, representing the family, your family that raised you and brought you up. But it was something where, if you're trying to earn respect, you'll never get it. That was my feeling. If you're trying to earn it, you'll never get it. And so what I tried to do was, Dave Wallace gave me a great quote that obviously I remember to this day, and is that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so that was kind of my mantra as a pitching coach, is that I cared about these kids. I cared about them. I wasn't so much concerned, at the end of the day, okay, what's your velocity? What's your spin rate? What's this? What's that? How are you doing? Everybody has an opportunity to go out there and play and compete. And when they compete and they play well, they don't need you really,
Right.
But
Right.
it's the downtimes it's the downtimes that you have to pat them on the back, know what their needs are, and every one of those pitchers is different, and every year, going to spring training, sometimes with 30 pitchers in spring training, and getting to know all those guys, getting to know their backgrounds, getting to know their families, getting to know what makes them tick, getting to know what their needs are, became my priority as a pitching coach. The baseball part, pretty much takes care of itself if you can execute pitches. And at the end of the day, whether you're successful or not usually comes down to being able to execute pitches on a consistent basis. Your number one guys, they can probably execute 7.5, 8 pitches out of 10. Your Hall of Fame guys, they can execute 9 out of 10. I remember Greg Maddox, who I never had. He summed it up like this: if I throw 100 pitches and I'm happy with 80, what happened to the other 20?
Right.
And a lot of times those 20 pitches will dictate a game. So from a mental standpoint, which is another part of being a pitching coach, for the mental part, the mental aspect of the concentration level, you watch golfers and their concentration level on each and every shot. It's the same thing with baseball. You don't know when those 20 pitches are when you're in competition. So the mentality to be able to concentrate and have that concentration for 6, 7, 8, 9 innings, 2.5, 3 hours, it's very difficult to do. And so obviously your better pitchers are the ones that are able to have that mental capacity and be able to execute pitches on a consistent basis. So that was, I would, when I first got the job in Atlanta, I was young, and I learned so much. Just like we learned as players, I learned a lot as a pitching coaches from the players that I was able to coach. And so, hopefully at the end of the year, your pitchers, each one, they're better than when they started the year. That was one of the things that Terry Collins, who was our field coordinator in Los Angeles when I was a minor league pitching coach, that was one of the things that he said. He said, just make sure your pitchers are better at the end than they were at the beginning. And, that's what I always try to do. I mean, it's a process. When you're trying to get a Mike Foltynewicz, who never threw a slider, to get him to throw a slider at 88, 89 miles an hour, but he doesn't know the field, doesn't know the release. And so at the beginning of it was, we're going to throw it at a lesser speed. We're going to throw it at 82 miles an hour. We're going to throw it at 83 miles an hour. Okay, so now once we get the feel and we get the release and we get confidence, because as you know, going out there and having confidence in a pitch that you're trying to throw, it's not all that easy just to say, hey, go throw this pitch. There's a confidence level that is needed to be able to execute pitches. And so by the end of the year, that slider was 88, 89 miles an hour. But it was a 6 month process in knowing that there is an end game. And I think that's the biggest part, and I don't know how it is in today's game. I don't know if there's, I don't know if it's, instant gratification. We need this done now. Or if the knowledge is that there is a process involved, because they're human beings. These kids have a heartbeat, and you have to. That's the one thing to understand is that they are human. They're going to make mistakes, and they're going to make errors. And as much as we as instructors, much like our own kids, want to limit that time in between, it's difficult to do.
No,
Sorry, I was very long-winded there.
No, that's all right. I agree with you, Raj. I think that, you know what, and I truly believe as long as I managed in the minor leagues, thought I was going to get a big league chance, but I didn't. But the analytics are big, but it can be so bad at times because, you know what, you can't grade the heart. You can't grade the person's brain, which I think is a lot, but analytics are good for baseball. I've always believed in them. They've always said that I was an old school guy, and I used every analytic that I thought would make the team better. But, I mean,
absolutely.
I have one more.
Well, you know what, Wally, you're doing a disservice to the kids if we don't use them. If they're not used. But also, but there is a value to experience and to knowledge. And you see a player, you see a pitcher, and you say he reminds me of Ray Burris, and these kids today are going, "Who the hell is Ray Burris?"
Ray Burris. I played with him. He was pitching for the Mets, and before you were
there.
So
it's but it is. I mean, Davey was one of the first ones who used analytics, and I think it's a great tool. It's a wonderful tool, but also I think there's a good combination of experience and knowledge and gut, which as a player there is a thing called having gut instinct, having baseball instincts, and you see it every day. Yep.
I mean, I think of the manager of the Braves now. This guy I managed against in A-Ball. They were in, God dang it, where were they at? They were somewhere on the coast, but what a great job this guy's done. He's been with the organization for 100 years.
Yeah.
And Snitker has done a great job. We had so many conversations, but do you think if you go to the pennant race, they're 2 games out right now?
Yeah.
From the Mets. I think the guy's good enough to overcome it. I don't want him to because I want the Mets to win, but he's pretty fucking good.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that you're pretty good when you have pretty good players. It's like us in '86. We had pretty good players. Analytics are a lot better when you got good players. And so at the end of the day, I don't think I don't know. I mean, it's I don't know. Sometimes after you win so much, there's some complacency and expectation that it's just going to happen. And then you got the upstart guys. It was like before I got to New York, it was like when you guys had the battle with the Cubs in '84. I mean, they were a pretty good team, and the Mets were on the uptick. And next thing you know, for the next 3, 4, 5 years, the Mets are the team in baseball and National League East specifically that are the team to beat. And so, it's there's timing for everything, and hopefully this will be the Mets' time.
All right, Raj. Hey, you know what? I don't know. Bruce,
all right, brother.
Bruce has another question. I'm going to end it with Bruce, but I want.
No, listen. I'm with Wally. I'm sorry, but I apologize, Wally. It was great, Roger. thoroughly enjoyed having you on. Love to
Well, thank
listen to
you.
you and Wally.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Wally, good to see you again, brother, and I'll see you next time.
You sucked, Rod. You sucked today. You sucked.
Thanks. I appreciate
I love
it.
you, though, brother.
Yeah. I love you too. All right.
Yeah.